It's very hard to reach elite promotion like UFC, Bellator, or ONE FC. When one fighter does it, it's a great success. But when the brothers do that, it's an amazing success, don't you think so? I'm Vladimir Vlad and these are Top 10 MMA Siblings. Please enjoy! Number 10. Joe was on, Dan was on. When it comes to these two brothers, they are really famous in the world of UFC. Joe was on, black belt in BJJ under Dennis Savory. He's known for the score of 28 wins, 15 losses, one of the greatest submission experts who remained in the UFC for a very long period of time. He kicked off at UFC 63 with victory over Jens Pulver and holds notable wins over Jeremy Stevens, Kurt Warburton, Melvin Guillard, Jamie Warner, Michael Chiesa, Mark Danzig, Diego Sanchez, and Marcin Held. The guy last fought on October 18, 2019, where he scored a victory over Jonathan Pierce. His brother, Dan was on. Well, he is not as famous, but we must say that this guy competed at WSOF World Series of Fighting, where he scored a victory over John Gunderson and lost via knockout to Justin Gaethje. We mustn't forget his UFC run, but unfortunately he lost on both occasions to Cole Miller and Efrain Escudero. Number 9. Douglas and Diego Lima. Lima brothers are very much known in the world of mixed martial arts. Diego Lima is riding on a score of 57 and he is a UFC fighter. He fought at UFC on 2 occasions, he had 2 UFC runs, and we can say the most notable wins of his career are the ones over Court McGee and Luke Jumeau. He is the TUF 25 welterweight tournament finalist, and he is also the former Titan FC welterweight champion. Despite he has no UFC experience at all, Douglas Lima is way more known among Lima brothers because he won so many titles. He is the former MFC welterweight champion, Bellator Season 5 and Bellator Season 8 welterweight champion, the guy who fought for the first time for Bellator welterweight world title against Ben Askren, but he lost at Bellator 64. Then he competed against Andrei Koreshkov after a victory for the title against Rick Hahn, and then he was able to revenge the loss to Andrei Koreshkov, and then he reclaimed the title. Against Lawrence Larkin he defended it. He was weaker than Rory McDonald, but in the third match against Andrei Koreshkov he finally bounced back. He is the only guy who turned the lights out on Michael Page. This was one of the greatest upsets in the history of Bellator, and he is Bellator worldweight champion. Number 8. Jim and Dan Miller. Jim Miller is way more known, and he is a real UFC veteran who competes since October 18th, 28 in the most elite fighting promotion in the world. His most notable wins are the ones over Mac Danzig, Duan Ludwig, Gleison Tibau, Charles Oliveira, Melvin Guillard, Joe Lozon, Jensi Medeiros, Danny Castillo, Takanori Gomi, Alex White, and Jason Gonzalez. And if there's one thing that comes to my mind when I think about Jim Miller, that's his fantastic black belt in BJJ, and these are his wonderful and great submission wins. The guy is a real beast in this sport. His less known brother, Dan Miller, is the former Cage Fury middleweight champion, but the guy kicked off at UFC before his brother with a victory over Rob Kimmons. He didn't have the greatest score in the world, but interestingly he was finished only once to Jordan Mine via TKO at UFC 158. He competed against really big names like Ruzimir Palhares, Nate Marquardt, Michael Bisping, Damian Maia, Charles Sonnen. He was losing all that bouts via unanimous decision, but he choked out John Salter and also Ricardo Funch. So, these are two really legendary brothers. Number 7. Patricio and Patrick Fryer, also known under the nickname of Pitbull Brothers. Let's talk now about both of them. Patricio Fryer, Bellator 2 division champion, the guy who won Bellator title at featherweight and lightweight, and he has notable wins over Michael Chandler, Emmanuel Sanchez, Daniel Weichel, Daniel Strauss, Henry Corrales, Daniel Weichel again, Pat Curran, Justin Wilcox, and many others. He is also one of the greatest strikers in the division and also one of the greatest grapplers with a BJJ black belt with a fantastic score of 30 wins and only 4 losses in his whole career. Patrick Fryer is riding on a score of 23 wins and 9 losses. He is Bellator Season 10 lightweight tournament finalist and the guy who fought for the vacant Bellator lightweight championship where he was knocked out to Michael Chandler, and the guy who reached Rising lightweight Grand Prix final where he lost via unanimous decision to Tofik Musaev. But he scored some very notable wins: Tatsuya Kawajiri, Roger Huerta, Derek Campos, Josh Thompson, Ryan Couture, Sadavad, David Rickles, and many others. He is better striker than his brother, but his submission game is still not as good as his brother's. Number 6. Anthony and Sergio Pettis. Anthony Pettis is the former UFC lightweight champion who won the title against Benson Henderson via armbar, defended it against Gilbert Melendez, but lost it to Rafael dos Anjos. He is the former WFC lightweight champion who scored the fight of the night bonus when he nearly turned the lights out via a fantastic Showtime kick on Benson Henderson, and one of the most entertaining fighters to watch, Southpaw Taekwondoka with a BJJ black belt. Sergio Pettis is the former RFA and NAFC champion who competed at the UFC, where he had great wars against John Moraga, Brandon Moreno, and he even defeated Joseph Benavidez, Tyson Am. These were great battles. In his last fight, he transitioned to Bellator and defeated Alfred Kashkashian. Number 5. Valentina and Antonina Shevchenko. Valentina Shevchenko is more known for these sisters, and she competes since the age of 15, and she dedicated her whole life to fighting. Valentina Shevchenko is a black belt in Taekwondo, Judo, and many other martial arts. She is the current UFC Women's Flyweight Champion. She defeated Joanna Jędrzejczyk, then defended titles against Jessica Ai, Liz Carmouche, and Kathleen Chokagian. What a great fighter she is. I think she is the greatest southpaw female fighter in the history of this competition. When it comes to Antonina Shevchenko, Antonina is also a great southpaw fighter with a kickboxing record of 39-1. She has 8 wins and 1 loss in her MMA career. At Dana White's Contender Series, she TKO'd Jaime Nievara, then bounced back with 2 wins and 1 loss. She defeated Ji Jong Kim, lost to Roxanne Modafferi, and interestingly choked out Lucia Pudilova. I believe Antonina will reach title status very soon. Number 4. Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz. Maybe the most controversial duo of brothers who have ever competed in the world of mixed martial arts. They are known both for the incidents inside the ring and outside of the ring. They were telling everything they shouldn't say to their fighters. They were insulting their opponents during the fight. They are still masters of drama. And now, let's talk about Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz fought for the WEC Lightweight Championship, then won the UF 5 tournament. He is a master of triangle and guillotine choke, and you don't want to fight this guy on the ground. He is very, very tough, very powerful, and you can fight him all day long. But Nate Diaz will continue going forward, pressing you, putting into your face. He'll get better all the time, but Nate will anyway survive. Nate Diaz became one of the most known fighters for his famous trash talk against Conor McGregor, because back then it broke the record for the number of pay-per-view buys. Nick Diaz is the former Strikeforce champion, but also the guy with the most controversial talk in the history of this competition, the guy who defeated BJ Penn. Then he lost to Carlos Condit for the interim UFC welterweight championship, then lost to George St. Pierre for the UFC welterweight championship, and he criticized the referee all the times. Nick also criticized everybody else. His last bout happened against Anderson Silva at UFC 183, and since back then, Nick was tweeting from time to time, sharing famous Instagram posts from time to time, but he has never stepped inside the octagon again, and I hope I will see him fighting soon. I mean, hope is the last to die, right? Number 3. Fedor Emelianenko, Alexander Emelianenko. Very, very great brothers. Maybe the most famous Sambo brothers in the history of mixed martial arts. Fedor Emelianenko is the former Pride heavyweight champion and the former WMMA heavyweight champion, the guy who also fought for Bellator heavyweight title. He was undefeated for a very, very long period of time, and Fedor is a real legend of this sport. He was undefeated for 8 years. He was dominating some big guys like Kazuyuki Fujita, Gary Goodrich, Mirko Crocop, Kevin Randleman, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira, Jairzinho, Mark Hunt, Choi Hongman, Tim Sylvia, Andrei Arlovsky, Satoshi Ishii, and many others. Maybe the most powerful fighter in the history of this sport, no doubt. He was, I think, even first on the list of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters for some time. On the other side, Alexander Emelianenko also had great results. He won 28 times. He has victories over James Thompson, Pavel Nastula, Sergio Silva, Sergey Karitonov, Dan Bobish, Konstantin Glukhov, Virgit Zwicker, Gabriel Gonzaga, and Victor Peshta. And he is a really tough name, tough fighter, you know. Alexander Emelianenko really gave a hard time to some big names like Fabricio Verdum, Josh Burnett, and Mirko Crocop, but he has always been in the shadow of his older brother. Number 2. Little Nog, Big Nog, or Nogueira Brothers. The most influential duo when it comes to BJJ, of course aside of Gracie's, but Nogueira Brothers have dodges all around the globe. Now let's talk about Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. He competed at first at Pride Fighting Championship, where he defeated Nakamura, Sakuraba, Alex Stiebling, Alistair Overeem, Dan Henderson, and many other wonderful fighters. When he inked UFC in 2019, he fought big names like Jason Brills, Tito Ortiz, Rashad Evans, Anthony Johnson, Sam Alvey, Ryan Bader. He didn't fight on many occasions, you know, but he remained constant and active, and he deserves nothing but maximum respect. Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, also known under the nickname of Minotauro, he is a medical phenomenon because he nearly died when he was young, but turned out to be one of the greatest heavyweight fighters ever, a real jiu-jitsu specialist who choked out Mark Coleman, Gary Goodrich, Enzo Inoue, and many other famous fighters. He defeated Bob Sapp, Dan Henderson, Rico Rodriguez, Mirko Crocop. He was a real Pride legend, and there was no better submission expert in Pride FC. Nobody was able to finish him. He was so tough and so powerful guy. He even fought in the UFC against Tim Sylvia, Heath Herring, Randy Couture, Brandon Schaub, Dave Herman, but after 3 losses in a row to Fabricio Verdum, Roy Nelson, and Stefan Struve, Older Nog decided to hang up his gloves. But he is definitely one of the greatest BJJ fighters in the history of this sport. Number 1. Gracie Brothers. When it comes to Gracie Brothers, there were many great MMA fighters, great jiu-jitsu experts. Fans asked to post these generations, so please enjoy. You can stop the video if you miss something, then we kick off with famous, fantastic names who were the greatest inside the cage. Discussing the second generation, Royce Gracie was definitely the most influential guy, the winner of UFC 1, UFC 3 and UFC 4, and the man who really put BJJ on the map of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Other two from the second generation were Rickson Gracie, who won 11 bouts and lost none, and I don't know why UFC didn't sign him. And also the famous guy was Roller Gracie, but he didn't have a superb MMA score. He was riding on a 5-5-1, but generally 7 dan black belt in BJJ. What else do you need? When it comes to third generation, Ray Gracie and Ryan Gracie didn't have much experience in MMA, while Rodrigo and Renzo Gracie showed some greater skills. They were pretty much dominant in the Far East. Kuran Gracie is currently a UFC fighter and a great grappler, while Roger Gracie spent the majority of his career at Strikeforce. He fought in ONE FC and he also had one UFC fight. The fourth generation brought Neyman Gracie, the current Bellator star, who scored 9 wins and only 1 loss to Rory McDonald, but the guy has, believe it or not, 8 submission wins. What a fantastic grappler he is. My avid fans, thanks for watching.